Hi, everyone. Sorry for being a little late. I had to install the update for Zoom, so it took a little bit more than I expected. Let me see if the chat is enabled for everyone. Everyone, okay. So, can you hear me? Can you please confirm that you're hearing me? Does the chat works for everybody? I think no, it doesn't work. Let me enable that. Where it is, everyone. Okay. So it should be enabled for everyone now. Okay, great. Great. Okay, so let's wait. Hi, everybody. let's wait a little bit more so that we can allow other people to join. We are now 23. So seems like there is quite a bunch of Italian people. So ciao a tutti. And in this webinar, I want to humbly show you how I treat this vocal recording and how I use our own plugins to mix it. We use always the same plugins, but in different contexts. Hi, everybody. Hi, Daryl. Nice to see you again. Hi, Tony, and no worries for the plugin. It's our pleasure. Every Christmas we give away a free plugin, and if you don't know it, if you are unaware of that, yesterday we released another free plugin that is called Molla. It's a simplified version of our spring verb, and it's just one spring of the spring verb, so it's a spring reverb with just one spring modeled, and you can get it for free from our website. The only thing we ask back from you is a share of the plugin on social medias, but if you don't have social medias, don't worry, just write me an email and I'll find a way to let you have the plugin anyway. Don't worry. And so just one more minute and we'll start to see this little mess of track I have here. It's not sounding the way I want, but it's pretty vocal heavy, so it's interesting to analyze for this context, for this webinar. So we are going to use always the same plugins because these are the ones that we use to mix. We are going to use Total EQ. We are going to use HA2A, the new plugin we made that emulates NLA2A. We are going to use Multicom Plus MKey2, and we are going to use maybe Sibilla, but you can do almost the same thing, not as automatically, but almost the same thing with Total EQ. I mean, Total EQ can be used as a DES too. So I'll show you both ways of doing that. And so well, Tony, it depends on the kind of sound you want. You're not getting well with HA2A, but it's a more slow and natural sounding compressor. It depends on the kind of character you want your track to have. With the Multicom Plus MKey2, you can get a more aggressive sound because it has some kind of 1176 emulation, while the LA2A is more natural. So it's 5 minutes after 7, so I think we can start the webinar, and I'll start to share the screen and jump into the Reaper session I have here. So let me share the screen. Share the whole desktop. So here we are. And I also have to enable the computer sound, share computer sound. So just to let me know if you can hear correctly the music. Can you hear that? Is it working? Can you please let me know? Okay, it's too loud. Okay. Let me turn the master down because I want to talk on the music. So it's better if I have it down. Let me know now if it's okay. Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavoro in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come le... Okay, hopefully we won't have any issue. I have rendered all the music tracks in a single stem, so we can concentrate on vocals, and hopefully we won't have any glitch in the music. But just to make sure, let me increase the buffer size. Okay, we are ready at 1024, so better not to increase it anymore. Let's try that. And see what we can do. Okay, so this is, as you can see, the purple tracks here are vocal tracks. It's a pretty vocal heavy track, and I have created some buses to route all my vocals. These are the vocals from the verse. It's for 4 different tracks. We have other 4 different tracks for the chorus. Maybe it's better if I write them in English and not in Italian. Then we have these other tracks that are outside the vocal and the chorus. They are like background vocals, not in the common sense, because this is a half rap and half sung song. So in the rap part we have double voices, only just some parts. So these are outside of buses. Then we have our delay that is fed into a reverb to make it sound more natural. And everything is coming from this track folder here. And I show you the structure I used for the grouping. Maybe it's not the one you have to use, of course, but maybe it's useful to see how I arrange the track before starting mixing that. All the verse tracks goes into this bus here, and every track has its own EQ and compressor. In this case, I've used Total EQ and H2A for almost everything. Then I did the same for the chorus vocals. And in this case, since there were a couple of notes out of tune, I also used the rear tune. You can use auto tune or whatever you have, because I had to fix those notes. This is part of a background vocals that only plays in the chorus. And then we have these other tracks, and I did the same thing here with Total EQ and H2A. The effects are only a delay and the reverb fed in series, so that the delay is fed to the reverb and it sounds more like a real natural reverb. Delay, sorry. Everything is in this Vox bus, that has a 31 MK2 on it, just to iron out. I like to use 31 MK2 on every bus I have, so vocal bus, guitar bus, and the keyboard bus, and the drum bus, and so on, because I like the way they sound when they merge together, if they are already smoothed by the auto algorithm of 31 MK2. And then we have the original auto gain, the small one, that I still tend to prefer because it's faster to use than the Pro version. And it's fed with the input from the music. We have one bus, one send here that is connected to the sidechain input of this plugin, and this automates the whole vocal bus and not the single tracks. I find that this is enough most of the time. Yeah, Tony, I mean, it's faster because there are less controls, and so I can concentrate more on the effect. Most of the time, I don't need all the controls of the Pro version because I just want the vocals to move according to the level of the music, and I don't want to mess around with all those controls. Those controls, so the controls of the Pro version are more meant for a situation when you want to fix something, or when you have some particular kind of situation. But in this case, we have a pretty standard vocals on the music, so this works, and I can get to the result faster. Now, I'll let you hear. We have different parts of the song where the vocals seems a little bit different, and are different number of tracks of vocals playing. So I'll let you first hear the first part of the verse that is sung with just one vocal track, and it's a low tone vocals. It's sung an octave below the rest of the song, so it needs a special treatment.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavoro in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro. In Italia si spera nella Madonna, perché è una donna, perché è una donna, in Italia si picchia la minigonna, perché è una donna, perché è una donna.
So I have separated this the treatment for these tracks. The levels are completely different, and what I did is to compress more. It's not the equalization difference, is to compress more this track because it's a lower volume and it needs to stand out in the crowded music that we have, and it works like this.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavoro in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro. In Italia si spera nella Madonna, perché è una donna.
Okay, so this is just to give you an idea. I haven't used purposely any de-essing on those tracks because I want to show you how our DSS works. So for example, for the first plugin, I can use Sibilla, and let me take the plugin. Okay, so I use it as a first plugin, and first thing I want to do is to isolate the first vocal track.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavoro in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94.
As you can see, Sibilla has different banks that reacts to different frequencies. What actually does is to create several bandpass filters tuned to this exact frequency, and when the level of the bandpass signal exceeds the level of the unprocessed signal, then we are probably having a peak there. So Sibilla starts to reduce the in a wideband way. It triggers the compressor and reduces all the level of the track, not just this frequency. So You can tune the way it reacts by enabling or disabling each band. So with the effect mount, you can decide the level of the sidechain, so how much compression is happening. Let me tune it a little bit.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, a 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro.
There is a lot of very high frequencies here, so I can think of enabling. Tony asks, what frequencies do you usually find the S's at? It depends. It depends on the microphone and the specific voice you are working on. Usually on males, they are at around 5K, 6K. On females, they are higher in frequencies like 8K, 7K. But if you have a very sibilant microphone, a microphone that has a lot of high frequencies, you can also find something that you don't want up here. So if you listen carefully to this recording that has been made with a cheap Rode NT2, you can hear that the very high frequencies in the vocals are kind of unnatural. So let me see what happens. Yes, Tony, it's a trial and error, exactly. But usually, if you leave all the default bands in Sibilla, they works fine most of the time. You can just disable or enable them. So if you find that it reacts too much to the S's, just disable the frequencies. You see they lights up. So you know which filter is reacting to the frequency spike. So
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, a 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro. Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, a 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro.
So I have disabled these two because I've seen that the part that annoyed me the most was happening up here. So I disabled these two detectors. Max asks, does Sibilla Pro also reduces the wall signal? Yes, both Sibillas are wideband DSs. So the filters are the sidechain to a wideband compressor. They are not dynamic EQs. For this reason, you can try if the DSer is too aggressive, you can try to work with total EQ. And to do that, just have a look at the spectrum of the voice.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, a 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro.
So it seems like we're having something over here that we don't want. So apologize for the little bit of problem with the audio. I don't know how to fix that, honestly. When I do these Zoom webinars, my computer cannot handle that, probably. Okay, I have the EQ set around here. What I'm going to do, you probably have guessed it, I'm going to use the dynamic mode of total EQ. So I can, I want a bell-shaped filter. So I can reduce the levels when they happen. So
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro. Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come
It
uno
seems
schiavo
fine now.
dell'euro.
As you can see, I have tuned this negative bell filter. Don't look at the gain the gain setting, because this is the maximum gain it can reach with the gain reduction. And I'm just looking at some movements around here when the SIS happens. So I can see this is being brought back almost to neutral level. This means that we are reducing a lot of the problematic area. And I also use my ear as far as I can to listen for natural reduction without being too obvious. So if I close it down, it won't have problem with glitches, and we can listen to the track without being processed.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro.
Now I can
Italia
mute
lavoro, poco
the
dinero, Italia
band.
lavoro,
So
pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero.
you hear in this particular point, when you have the S and the Z, it's really annoying. And if I enable once again the dynamic filter, I can fix
Italia
it.
lavoro, poco dinero, Italia lavoro, pagati nero, lavori in Italia sotto al cimitero, 94 zampe come un levriero, conto tipo sotto zero, soldo è sempre passeggero, io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero, tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro.
So in my opinion, the best thing right now we have for the S-Sync is Total EQ. With Total EQ, you can reach a finer level of control. You have 12 band, so you can find different points that you may want to fix if you have different frequencies to fix in that context. And we can do the same for the rest of the vocals. So I know it's a little bit boring, but it's rewarding at the end. So we need to go to the second part of the verse and have a look to the other tracks. I already added a dynamic filter here because this vocal had too much body in this region, and I wanted to reduce that when it was too much. Sorry.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia alla minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la si trova male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha un perché.
So it seems like we're having some issue here too. So with the same approach, I'm going to reduce that. And see what happens.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la si trova male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha un perché.
Okay. So let me hear how it sounds now.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la si trova male ma è
I would say that it's natural and it's working fine with the S's. Tony, right now I'm not using Sibilla anymore because Total EQ is a better tool in my opinion. And it works better. It needs a little bit more tuning because you have to you have to know what you do. You have to look at the spectrum like I did over here and see, sorry, I have to regenerate that.
La Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la situa va male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
First, you have to know that sibilants are, this is one kilohertz, so 2 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz, 4 kilohertz are up here in this area of sibilance frequencies. So you have to know that, then look in this area where the peaks are. This is probably some sibilance, some resonant frequencies that you don't want anyway. And then just add a band here and tune the dynamic mode until it sounds right or reduces the way you want the high frequencies, okay? Then we can move on to the other track and do the same thing. So we have a specular equalizer because they are tracks that work together. They are twin tracks, let's say. One, you can see over here that one is a little bit as a pan on the left and the other pan on the right, and so they can work together as a double tracking vocal. And so now I have to do the same thing with this other track.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la situa va male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
So I think I have to put something here. It's a bell we want. Dynamic mode, and turn it down.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la situa va male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
Okay, here we are. So if we put those tracks together,
in Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la situa va male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
So we can tune once again the compressor. We want a very present vocal. So let's aim for negative 10 dBs of gain reduction. I'll, of course, take the all auto slam vocals.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la situa va male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
And this is done, and then move on to the other.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la situa va male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
And done. We let DHA2A set everything for us. So if we listen to the full verse, it works like this.
Italia lavoro, poco dinero. Italia lavoro, pagati nero. Lavoro in Italia sotto al cimitero. 94 zappe come un levriero. Conto tipo sotto zero. Soldi è sempre passeggero. Io antico sì come uno schiavo sumero. Tu antico sì come uno schiavo dell'euro, dell'euro, dell'euro. In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. Ancora lo senti più forte che la si trova male ma è semplice. Cervello in gita su complice, la sua fuga ormai non ha perché.
Okay, so we cleaned up the vocals and it sounds more all round, more refined. You were asking, guys, if I plan to add dynamic functionality to Sibilla. But, well, this may be an update we can do for an MK2 that may be in the work. I never thought about that. But we can do that. We can use the dynamic mode for those filters. So instead of working as a compressor, we can do the dynamic EQ trick. Yes, why not? So I'll write it down as a feature request. Why not? Why not? Tony asked if it's better to keep the vocals in the center or expanding over ever a good idea. Usually if you have one vocal, just one track, you keep it in the center because it's where you have more attention from the listener. If you have a double tracking situation like we have here, slightly on the left, slightly on the right, because if you keep them dead center, you may have a phasing issue with the two tracks that work together. So it's better to spread them a little bit to reduce the phasing that you have with the vocals. If I, for example, if I put them in the center, and okay, sorry, I have two tracks selected, and it does this, and just one track. Okay, those are in the center now. If I solo those tracks, sorry, I have to go to part number 2.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna ancora.
They, in my opinion, sound a little bit thinner if I spread it a little bit, like 20%, not more than that.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna perché è una donna, perché è una donna ancora lo sa.
They sound a little bit more full, and they occupy more the space in the song. But it's a matter of personal taste. So if you like it like them dead center, keep them there. Then we can move onto the other tracks here in the chorus, and it's part number 3, if I remember well. Exactly. So if we listen just to the vocals, these are 3 tracks. So in this case, we have to do the same thing, but with more tracks for the S-ing stuff. And it sounds like this. Since we are in the chorus, I have added a little bit more of delay because I want it to be bigger. And with the more delay and effect, we can have it bigger. Max, yes, it's good to have 3 takes and one left, one exactly. That's what I did in the chorus, because I want the maximum attention to the chorus. So I want to have a center track. Tony, what about backing tracks? They can be spread wide. Usually you have you have background vocals wide, very wide, because they have to surround the main vocal. So when you do background vocals in the studio, you usually track a lot of time, and it's like working with guitars. You have to layer vocals and put them hard left and hard right. And if you have a choir, a lot of persons singing together, you just use 2 microphones for the stereo take and pan them hard left and hard right, and you have the same effect. What do I have to say about the chorus? It's the same thing. You have to, yes, that we have the same equalization because the vocals has been recorded in the same take, and it's very similar to the verse 1. So we can do the same with the DS.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland.
Okay, here we are. So our dynamic mode, well shaped, a little bit tighter, and reduce that.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo.
The same thing over here.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente.
Here we are. So dynamic mode, well, tighter, and reduce that.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per...
Okay, and then the last one.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente. Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente.
Okay, here we are. So if we listen to the chorus vocals.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente.
If, for instance, I'm using HHWay here, but if, for instance, I wanted to have a more aggressive vocal, I could have used an 1176 type of compression. And for this, I'm going to use Multicom Plus because we don't have a standalone 1176. So this is Multicom Plus. I take the FAT model. Let's put auto oversampling and try to create a more aggressive sound. For one, it's okay. I want negative 10 dBs of gain reduction. Usually I start with like this for 1176, and let's see what it can do.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente.
So if I enable this one and I let you switch between, let me put this dead center so we can switch between one track and the other. This is with the 1176 type.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente. Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente.
So as you can see, the 1176 give us a little bit more aggressive sound. In this case, the difference is not that obvious. Because the vocals are not aggressive in the first place. Max asked if Opto, FAT, and VCA are the same of the channel strip ones. Yes, exactly. They are the same algorithm. The Multicom Plus Key2 adds console for key and VCAE 160. Those are two new models of this compressor. but the first four are the same that you can find in the channel strip. Of course, this also has a little bit more option, like the transformer emulation, an exaggerated analog saturation, auto input, auto output, sidechain, external sidechain. So we have a little bit more options here. But what I was after here, it was a more aggressive sound, and there's not much difference between those two compressors in this context.
Dillo, presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo, presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo, presidente, che l'Europa non è un continente. Sembra Gardaland per le banche con la Gard. Dillo, presidente.
Because you don't have aggressive vocal in the first place. We have a very sung part, and correctly sung. I mean, not in front of the mic, not too close to the mic, not singing in an aggressive way. So there's not much difference between those two compressors. And I prefer what the HA2A does on the low end and the high end to what the Multicom Plus MK2 does. Tony. You use a lot of Multicom Plus MK2, it seems. So I prefer to stick to my first choice for this, because I love the weight that the tube emulation gives to the vocal. And so let's pan it back, bring everything at the same level. So this is handy, because if I want to tune the level of the whole chorus, I just use this fader instead of using 3 different faders. Then we also have in the last chorus, if we go to the last chorus, we have this other part. So if I had to tweak all the tracks one would be a mess. With just one slider, I can check the level of the whole chorus. Then we go to the interesting part, to another interesting part. We don't have anything special here, just Total EQ and HA2A on every vocal track. I love the sound of the LA2A, so I love how it works. Then we can have a look to what we did here to the vocal bus. So thank you, Max. I love HA2A and I love LA2A, of course. I love the way it sounds, and it's one of my go-to compressor for almost everything. What we did here is to use the average mode of 31MK2 to smooth out some frequencies issue we were having in the vocal bus. As you can see, it reduced a little bit of the low end because probably there was when the voices are singing together, when those tracks sings together, we have a build up in the low end, so it reduced that to avoid masking these frequencies here. And also if lifted up the 3 kilohertz area where you have the intelligibility part of the vocals. This is a good thing because the microphone I've used is a little bit scooped out. So We don't, so we need a little bit of presence in the vocals, apparently. Tony asks, what exactly is 31MK2? Well, is this plugin here? That simply means that we have two separate sections, a spectrum analyzer, an analogous spectrum analyzer. That means we have 31 bands that shows the level of, and these bars here shows the level of each one. Then we have 31 slider that are 1/3 octave equalizer, graphical equalizer slider. So each of these slider acts to a specific frequency, and with working with a 1/3 octave bandwidth filters. So you can tune the level of each of these frequency, and it also provides an auto mode. The auto mode uses two different algorithms to understand the kind of movement you have to do. We have the average, sorry, three different algorithms: the average, the median, and the lucky. The lucky one is an error, a lucky error. The first version of this plugin had a bug that made the slider never go negative. But this creates something that people liked, so I kept the algorithm, even if it's broken one. I show you what it does. I enable. We have two different auto cue mode. The static one only looks at the peaks in the signal and adjust the slider according to the maximum level of each band, while the continuous mode continuously analyze the signal using the integration time specified over here, and adjust the slider in a continuous way. This is not really something you want in music, in high quality music, because moving the slider this way can create some phasing effects. But it's very handy if you, for example, have a podcasting situation or a radio station where you want to keep everything as cleaner as possible in terms, as equal as possible in terms of frequency content. So the equalizer, the continuous mode, can help you fix everything in real time. So I prefer, Max, so for mixing, it's better to keep it static. Yes, I prefer to keep it static because I don't want it to start messing around with anything while I'm mixing. I may be fooled by the auto moves of the equalizer, so I want it to be static. Yes, the lucky mode in static, it works like this. So it's very light, as you can see in this context, but it also added this area over here. This equalizer does not use any reference, just to make sure, just to let you understand how it works. It doesn't use any reference curve as a target. It looks using different algorithms at the relation between the level of each band, and tries not to let any band to be too much higher than the band before and after that. So because you have masking, when you have two close frequencies in that have a very different level, you have a frequency masking, and you have the higher level one that masks the lower level one. So if you keep everything more or less even, you spread the frequency content more correctly. So with the average, what we do is to look at the average level of each band and compare it to the overall average level. So when we have an average level of one band that is very much higher than the overall average, we lower it down. And if you have different situation, we lower it up, weighting it with the bands that are next to that. So in the 3 kHz case, we look at the 2.51 and the 4K one. As you can see in those peaks, we have a dip here. The 3K is much lower than the 2.5 and the 4K. So what we did, what the algorithm did, is to rise a little bit of the 3K and a little bit of the 2.5K, because it was lower than this one, but it lowered the 4K one to bring it more in level, more in line with the 3K. I don't know if I explained how it worked. If I, for example, use the median filter, median algorithm, it doesn't use the average, but the median level. So it creates a more smiley, usually creates a more smiley equalizer, as you can already see from these curves. This is I honestly prefer the average one, but you can experiment, of course. You have an IQ amount knob that increases or decreases the amount of the equalizer applied. And then that's it. And of course, you can bypass each band, each slider, listing it in solo, or remove it from the auto algorithm. So you can just ignore these bands in the auto algorithm. But I honestly use it as in its standard mode, and I always get satisfactory results. Tony asks if I would put it on the master. It's already there. It's already here. As you can see, there is one on the master, and it's on an average algorithm. But as you can see, you don't have too much movements of the faders, because the master is already very flat, and we don't have masking, luckily. So it doesn't have to work that much, because I have put that on buses. So we already have a fixed situation in the beginning. Daryl asks, how close to mastering quality does this plugin get? Well, it doesn't introduce any kind of distortion. Of course, you have 31 filters that are minimum phase filters. So there is some kind of phasing that can happen when you move the filters. But if you keep it in static, once the situation is froze, you don't have any kind of issue. So you can use it in mastering. Then the last tool is the auto gain that I've used. So it's, as I explained to you in the beginning, it's fed using the aux send from the music stem, and it works like a volume, a fader that is rolled automatically for you to keep the level at the level of the music. Just look at it. So here it is. As you can see, it's like moving a fader, but it does it on itself, by itself. And I have set the speed to maximum because I like it to move it faster than it's in its default. And I also increase the range because I have some passages that are softer than the other, and I want it to react to the frequency, to the difference in level.
In Italia si spera nella Madonna, perché è una donna, perché è una donna. In Italia si picchia la minigonna, perché è una donna, perché è una donna.
But if I go to the chorus,
la si trova male ma è semplice. Presidente, sto paese non ha
much more, because the chorus is cooler, and using a higher range than the full situation, I can get more satisfactory results. Okay, so here it is. I don't have to write the automation because I think it's fine what it's doing. What I did is to disable the plugin here with an automation because we have a silence. No, sorry, it's not this one. This is for the delay. It's over here. We have silence that was making the plugin not work well. If, for example, I disable the automation, you can hear what happens to the voice. Sorry, go a little bit. Oh, this one, sorry. This is not what I want, because since the level of the music drops a lot, AutoGain drops the level of the vocals, and I don't want that. It's just a silence in the music. So and doing this automation that bypasses the plugin fixes that. AutoGain, Tony asks which bus is feeding the AutoGain. AutoGain is fed from my music stem. That is the rendering of the whole music section. So I did for this webinar. Usually I don't do that. I have a bus where I send all the music tracks, guitars, keyboards, bass, drums, everything. And I use that bus to feed the AutoGain. Now I have a rendered stem, and I use that to feed the AutoGain, but it's actually the same. Max asked if should I let 31 listen to signal first? Yes, you should. You have to play the whole track, or at least a representative part of the track through 31, so it can find the peaks in the signal, the different frequencies, and adjust the equalizer accordingly. So this is it. There's not much more to say in this webinar. We have mixed these vocals, and the final results is quite convincing in my opinion. So you have some question? Tony asked, can you set AutoGain to keep within a 60 dB range without censoring? No, not in the regular AutoGain. You need the Pro one. With the Pro one, you can have an internal reference, and you can set the maximum and minimum level that it can reach, both upwards and downwards. With the regular one, you can't. So you only have 6 dB of range, and you cannot say I want 3 dB, for example. The range knob is a scalar, so if the plugin would have it's computing a gain of 3 dB, and you have the scalar the range set to 50%, you are actually getting 1.5 dB. Marcel asks, which of your plugins do you recommend to bring the Vox in the mix forward? Well, what do you mean forward? To bring it forward, you have different strategies. It depends on the music behind that, depends on the kind of vocals. If you have low sung vocals, like we have in the first part of the verse here, the only thing you can do is compress it a lot and bring the level up with a fader. If you have vocals that is more in the spoken voice range, I mean between 300 hertz and 3 kilohertz, you can use the presence to make it more intelligent, more forward. So you can lift from 2 kilohertz to 3 kilohertz. It depends on the recording. You can use the EQ to make it more forward. If it doesn't get too thin, you have to experiment and see what works best. The only other option is to use the fader and lift it up. Mario, you ask, because I have a delay before the reverb, because it sounds more natural. You don't have pure delay spaces, you don't have pure reverb spaces in nature. So if you use the combination, let you hear the chorus, so it's more evident.
Italia e futuro non vanno insieme perché le iene.
Sorry.
Italia dillo presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo presidente che l'Europa non è un continente, sembra Gardaland per le banche con la GAR. Dillo presidente. Dillo presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo.
Yeah, it simply sounds more natural. Now this is, in this case, it's the Reaper's reverb. Simply, in my opinion, it's simply better. It's a matter of taste. Yes, we are hearing them together.
Dillo presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo presidente, sta manovra ci mette alle strette. Dillo presidente che l'Europa non è un continente.
This is the reverb, makes the voice a little bit thicker, and then we add the delay for space. And if we add them together, the delay is fed through the reverb. It's like having a big room that is it has its own delay, and the delay is reverberating inside the room. I don't know if I explained myself.
Dillo presidente, sto paese non ha più niente. Dillo presidente, sta manovra ci
Thomas says that he has a very nasal voice when singing. Well, it doesn't mean you have to fix that. It has to work in context. The first thing I would do is to lift up the high frequencies. And then if you have some resonant stuff going on, I would look at using a dynamic EQ tuned to the resonance. But I have to, of course, I have to see, I have to listen to the voice to give specific tips. Usually, you reduce the level of the specific resonant frequencies. So, guys, this is sorry, Logic, several other plugins all over the place. It's possible to name them. I don't know. This question is Logic specific, and honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if you can do this in Logic. Ronaldo asked, do you ever use two compressors on the same vocal? Yes, I did. I did, but not in this case. It's I don't think it's worth it. One compressor worked well. Sometimes if you use just one compressor, you see the compressor working too much, and then you use two different kind of compressor, one faster and the other one slower, to make it work together. So in this context, I think it's working fine. So guys, I'm ending the webinar because it's more than 8 p.m. here. And I remember we are having a sale right now. So if you want to take advantage of the sale, it's a 75% sale until 27th December. We have our new free plugin Molla, so you can go there and download it. And you are receiving an additional discount code for taking part of this webinar. You are receiving that tomorrow that you can use in addition to the discounts we are having right now. So have a good night, good rest of the day, wherever you are, and see you next time. Bye, everyone.